Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of From the Suggestion Box. I am so excited to have my dear friend, Alexa, with me. Let me tell you a little bit about this phenomenal woman. She recently joined Neighbors for Neighbors as the very first Vice President of Development. She was formerly with Junior Achievement of South Florida, and she is a seasoned relationship builder. In the past 12 years, she grew her network of committed volunteers from 1,500 to 7,500 in 2019, an increase of 373%. So you know we're going to be talking about that. Her passion for the nonprofit sector began early. It was triggered by the loss of her mother at a young age, and she learned to navigate the world for her and her younger brother at just 16. Finding the lack of support in different areas along the way, she saw the need to exert her influence, inspire, and work profusely to find ways to connect people in need with those who can help. Her ability to connect with communities from around the world has been shaped by her upbringing in Quito, Ecuador, the country of her birth, and her academic professional career across 4 cities in the U.S. She graduated from New England College in 2004 with a BA and a concentration in public relations. In 2018, Alexa obtained her MBA with a concentration in marketing. Her accomplishments include the 2022 Chairwoman leading Broward Class 9, 2021 All-State Executive Leadership Program, and 2020 Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute. Alexa, thank you so much for being here. This is just so great. Our story is so great. We met years ago, and what's really funny is every time we would connect, you would have a higher position. So, and here we are connecting again, and now you're the VP of Development. So I have so many questions and so many things that I feel that so many people will benefit from what you have to share. So I'm going to stop talking and start asking you questions. So let's start with the first one. How did you grow your volunteers, your committed volunteers from 1,500 to 7,500? And especially because now with the pandemic, hopefully kind of coming to an end and people starting to return to life and the world opening back up, every nonprofit organization everywhere is looking for volunteers to try to kind of build back up, because many organizations did lose. So this is a great time to hear about how you did that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. I'm so proud of everything you keep accomplishing. And like you said, my friends, I think we've seen each other at different points of our lives, going through different things. Now you see us, we went through similar situations and experiences at very similar times, which is quite impressive. And then we just met at Publix and we saw each other and realized we're neighbors.
Yeah, crazy. Love it.
So I feel honored to be here with you. I think this is such an amazing way to just talk about a subject that I feel deserves so much praise, so much respect, so much admiration. And I always, with the passion that I have for volunteers, I think that people don't realize that you have to have a skill set that goes above and beyond, in the sense that you have to be able to do a little bit of everything. And I know I've seen your other series with, some of the other members who have dealt with volunteerism, and we all agree it is people, but it's also learning how to analyze data and making sure that you're putting together a puzzle basically of people and preparing. And so I never knew that this was honestly a passion for me. I think it all happened because I had been part of Junior Achievement for almost 2 years, went back to Ecuador just because of some personal issues, and then came back when this huge facility had opened where 50,000 students were going through financial literacy programs, and it had become a mandate for every single student in our county, which is the 6th largest county in the US, has to go through this program. So basically, just to explain a little bit of what it was, that was when I was at Junior Achievement. stint, which I was there for 12 years. And so it was amazing. I mean, who learns financial literacy when they're young? It's something that not many of us really learn. And so the fact we were able to build this 3 mini cities in a 60,000 square foot building. And so it's a mandated program that gets taught in school by the teachers. And so about 15 hours of curriculum for 5th graders and 8th graders. And so in 5th grade, they learn what a checkbook is, you know, what a debit card is. They learn about payments, about jobs, and then they come to a mini city and act as adults for the day. And so they get paid. And so it's a really cool experience. And then for the 8th grade program, it's quite similar, but with budgeting, and they have a tablet and they make decisions. And so the thing is that this is the largest building of its kind in the world. And so there's many others now, I think over probably 36, and they keep building them. And there's not one that houses the amount of students that we house on a daily basis and then on a yearly basis. And so we have the 3 mini cities. And so the way, obviously it's a nonprofit organization, so we can't hire, you know, somebody to be, there's little storefronts where the kids go in and they basically act as adults. They buy things back and forth. So we needed volunteers for those specific storefronts. And so I came into the position where I was a volunteer coordinator, and I didn't really understand the scope of it until I started doing it. And I was like, wow, okay. And we really have some parents that attend or had, you know, but 30% of the schools, you know, have more of that support. Over 70% probably don't. And so I just started understanding what it really meant to ask people for one of the luxury. I think people don't give away their time as easily. Right. I mean, it's something that for them, I mean, they probably don't even have time, especially nowadays with how crazy everything is. And so you have to learn what it takes to be able to, you know, make people know that you're genuine and that hopefully you're helping change their lives as much as they're changing the lives of the students that they're impacting. And so when I was in this environment, I started, you know, obviously with parents, and then we used to have like a teacher for 3 storefronts or 4 storefronts, and that wasn't something I felt that the students maybe didn't get as much of it. So I would try to get as many volunteers as I could, but at the beginning it was tough. I think you have to go through a job for 1 year at least to just be able to understand what the needs are. And so I think the reason why things really started growing is because I've always been like, even when I was younger, I was the person that my friends would call for, like, you know, questions, or stay on the phone for 7 hours and talk forever. And, you know, Alexa was the one, they still tell me that I kind of put get-togethers together. I've been really bad in the last few years, but that was my thing. I always had connections with people, and I always know where I've lived in many places, and I kind of have an idea because I'm able to keep touch with people, which is something that maybe, you know, others, it's not as easy. And for me, it's just, it really comes natural. And I think that kind of overlapped directly into that volunteer coordinator position, because I realized that, you know, I could still be myself, but just get to know these incredible people who are willing to give of themselves. And I can honestly say that I really think that it was the treatment, that it was finding that secret sauce, making people feel that there's no pressure, being very aware of, you know, what they're doing, how they're feeling, like just actually getting to know people on another level. And you're talking, the need I had was 70 volunteers a day. Oh, September all the way through June, except for major holidays and, you know, spring break and things like that. And so it's a massive number. I mean, 70 for it to run smoothly, knowing that kids are supported by somebody who's there. And not even that. I mean, you know, from different volunteer coordinators we've met, or different missions that we've gotten to see, because we've been able to see them in different conferences and stuff, that you know, there's different types of volunteers, right? I mean, you have volunteers where, is it really important that a volunteer like speaks a lot? No, maybe they're just there to kind of help guide. Maybe they're there to hand tickets. Maybe they're there, but here they have to be engaged. They have to have patience. They're dealing with kids that we don't know the backgrounds. Right. And that part of it would make it a little more difficult and challenging. So going back to your question of, how did I do it? Oof. The team I had, I mean, honestly, and built, because at the beginning I was only a person of one, and little by little I started just putting all these processes together, understanding, creating relationships, not just with, with entities that would hopefully come back on a yearly basis, and just really strategically understand. I'm like a big picture person. And so I'm constantly trying to think, how can I do better? How can I improve? What can I do best? And so making sure that I also had the time when I was doing all the strategy to go back to make sure that I say hi, to thank the people that were there as much as I could, even if they came 2-3 times a week, even more reason, to go. I'm a hugger with COVID, that whole, but I even though I ask before I hug, like that, I think is one of the connections. Maybe the Latins, the Latin in me has that. And I think it breaks a barrier. I think all we need is love. I mean, we keep hearing that constantly. And I think that I just genuinely love to give love.
And that's why I love you. Oh my goodness. So yeah, so I've been to your facility. It is huge and beautiful. So were you able to on a daily basis, just walk through and say hi to everybody? Because I'm thinking 70 volunteers every day, and you still have your day job. How did you do that?
I started also creating partnerships with places like universities that really would help me with some students that could give hours, so that I could have the everyday things being done by somebody, that I've already kind of created the process with, and they could take care of that aspect of it. Obviously, it took years in the making, I think, to be able to get to that. But I think that in 2019, 2020, which is that, that last year before everything happened, I feel like we had it going, it was like the spreading out of the business cards, wherever it is that you go, it's not an immediate effect. It takes time. Right. And then the relationships you build, it takes time. And I think that I would create relationships with the people that I knew were invested to come back. The ones that would come maybe as parents with their kids, I would, go around, make sure everything was okay. But our staff was there to make sure that that was running smoothly. So I was really focused on, really the areas where I wanted to really nurture. And I think I really tried to make sure that I made time for that, because I felt that that was probably one of the most important things that I could do.
I love it. Making that time. I call it carving it out, right? And if you're in a tree and you take a knife or a stick and you're carving in a tree, you have to, as hard as it is, it's if you do not carve out the time in your schedule, it's because it's not just going to magically happen because everybody's busy, but those 30 minutes can turn into something long term if we just take the time, as hard as it is. But I love what you said, because one of the things that you did to enable yourself to do that was build capacity in other areas, and those things that could be done and that you built the processes for, you were able to hand that over so that you were able to do the networking and the nurturing and the thing that, which is really your absolute 1000% strength. When if you guys ever meet her in person, that people part is all Alexa. But you were able to do that, and you were right, that showing that love and that care is what brings people back. It's like a magnet, right? People are attracted to that. They want to know that the things that they're doing matter, and the time that they are giving matters. I love that. I love that.
And in addition to going back to what we were talking about not adding pressure to their lives. I really felt that was probably one of the main reasons why I was with the team. I was able to build this amazing group of people who were committed and loyal. And I think it really was because I would offer them, I would tell them the Cheesecake Factory menu of options. but this is no pressure. I mean, I would have cancellations of 25 people 2 days before, cancel and never get upset and never burn those bridges. As sometimes it would be so difficult to say, it's okay, no worries, but just keep saying it's okay. Because that for that same reason of how you treated them after that happened, because they're not doing it out of maliciousness. It
right.
just happen in the business world, right? And
right,
so,
right.
and sometimes I would get big groups and things like that. And so making sure that you never burn bridges. I think that is 100% also a key piece with the no pressure part, because when people don't feel pressure to do things, and that's, I think, in life and everything, like when you don't feel pressure, sometimes you want to do it and you don't realize it's natural, and it's something that, and that was what I wanted. I wanted to make sure that the people who were there, because sometimes it was a difficult day. You were 5 hours, 4 hours with kids that maybe weren't as patient. You didn't have the support, maybe the teachers are not that happy or something, right? And so things are amazing, and the kids getting an incredible program, but you want to make sure that these people understand that, one day you will feel like you changed 150 lives, and the other day you don't realize, but you changed a ton of lives, but maybe it's not outspoken, and it's something that will endure for much longer than you will ever imagine.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So making sure that they know that they are loved and appreciated, making sure that the ask that isn't feeling burdensome, right? Oh, that is so powerful. And then lastly, not burning bridges. I love that, especially the not making and not being burdensome, because a lot of times people, when we're getting busy, we're just like, we kind of like throw stuff onto the volunteers. Oh, you can do it, take care of it. But then they start to take it on like, oh my gosh, if I don't do this, it's not going to get done. And then I've heard volunteers tell me, they're like, I retired. This is not my job. I am coming here because I want to be here. But as soon as it starts to feel like work, I'm stopping. And so sometimes we forget that we're just like, oh, yes. And yes, we can absolutely delegate to volunteers, but not put them in a position to where they feel like now they are holding the bag. And if they don't get it done, the whole program's going to fall apart. Like, we can't put that pressure and burden on them. So I love, 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 love that.
And I think you and I would talk about, and I apologize for jumping in there, but you and I would talk about even like, how do you work on that with the whole staff, because you finally find this rapport and this way of being, and people coming, but are they being taken care of by those who they're going to be helping? Do you have jobs for them? You're not creating the jobs right then and there and just saying, oh, hold on a minute, we'll figure it out. Because like we're saying, and it jumps to where I'm at now, when I made that leap in position, I when I was thinking about it, and I was talking to a couple of my mentors and making the decision, and with the amazing CEO that's at Neighbors for Neighbors, her name's Katie, and just saying like, I was doing the volunteers, I was making sure that the operations of the parks were running. How does that transfer into development, right? I mean, and I think that sometimes if somebody asks me, it might be easier for me to just give a check rather than actually give my time. Mm-hmm. And so if you think about that transfer, I just feel so grateful that I was able to work with all of these amazing people who just literally gave so much of their time to change the lives of students. And I love it. And I still have them in my life. I mean, they give my son, Christmas gifts. We're in touch. I mean, they've become family, and we're talking so many different people. It's amazing.
I love it. Okay, so you said it, so I'm going to pull on it, because one of my favorite things that I love to talk about is the mentor-mentee relationship, and how important it is, and how I just think everybody should have one. And if you don't have one, to go out and get one. And if you aren't mentoring somebody, find somebody to mentor. Like, I just believe in it so much, because that is how we help each other move forward. So tell me about the importance of mentors in your life. And I'm sure I'm sure that's going to lead us to the position that you are in now, which I'm excited to hear about. So tell us, like, how important is the mentorship relationship for you?
It's so funny, because I think right before COVID, I started realizing that I had been where I was for quite a few years. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 39 years old now. A couple of years ago, maybe I was 37. I was just starting to think, so where am I headed? What am I doing? What do I want?
Yeah.
And so for me, making sure that I had some sort of guidance, because there was, in my mind, I thought maybe I wanted to be a chief people officer. I thought maybe I wanted to go into corporate. I thought maybe I didn't know really where I wanted to go. All I knew is that I was really happy when I was meeting people, getting to learn from people, getting to learn from different situations. I just love, love, love learning. And so one day I was having a meeting with somebody who was the chief people officer of a big company, had been there for years. And they were segmenting, and they were actually transitioning into creating their own business. And so they were going to have a little bit more time. And, after we met and we discussed a few things, I literally jumped out and said, would you be my mentor?
I
I
love
mean,
it. I love that. Advocating for yourself. Sometimes you have to do it, right?
if you
The
don't do
power
it,
in the ask. The
who
power in the
else
ask.
is going to do it if you don't? I feel like so many opportunities have come my way just because I was able to just ask or say, maybe can I do this? Is this something and it caught him completely off guard.
Off guard, right?
With a lot of women. So it was interesting to me to be able to have a male perspective, and, and he had a lot of experience, and I didn't know if that was exactly where I was aiming. And I wanted to know how to get there, because I was a nonprofit. And so I was basically doing a search, right, of my own self. I was, trying to figure out where I want, because you have to do the work before. I mean, this is something I tell my team all the time. Like, when we had a team of, we were dealing with all the volunteers, I would say, whatever you are planting now, you will see some sort of something come out in like 90 days. It's not immediate. If you start having conversations with somebody, it's not going to be immediate. And depending on how you're having those conversations. And so when I started writing things down, and it's funny because in the 2019-2020 New Year's, we spent it with one of my husband's best friends and with with his family. And so she sent me what I had written in my, vision for that next year. And if I'm 100% honest, 2 years later, everything became true. And by looking at that, I realized that you already have to be doing the work beforehand. Like, it takes time for things to happen, for your vision to align. I have a vision board right in front of me, and I would keep adding things, and I would maybe take away things that I wasn't certain of. My son is already 4 years old, so I can start focusing back in my career. And so when I asked, this amazing human, he was like, okay, we'll meet every Friday.
Love
And
it.
it started, honestly, it was just like that. It was, 20-30 minutes of, just talking things through, also evaluating where I was, how I could do things better where I was, how I could improve, and, him learning, me learning. And as I kept talking and hearing myself out loud, because I think sometimes we talk about things with our loved ones and those around us, but we don't talk maybe with this, because with colleagues, it's like the process that you're doing to figure out what you want to do next. And so
Right.
I felt that I needed somebody who was disconnected from where I was, just to kind of understand my perspective, and somebody who was objective. And I think that's why you need a mentor. I think just somebody, what is it, like a therapist? Honestly, sometimes I feel like he was my therapist.
Like a business, like your business therapist. Yeah, right? Like your therapist for business stuff.
It was so cool and as he's also developing his business and, and doing a lot of things, it was, I think, that part of realizing that maybe some of the things that you think are are validated once you have a mentor. Not that this mentor is going to tell you exactly what you need to do, follow this or that.
Yes.
But it really is to just honestly push you, move you forward, keep you accountable, which I think is one of the most important pieces, because life comes, it hits you from side to side. You don't even know what happens. But if you have somebody who you're going to see that Friday at 8:30 or whatever it is, you better make sure that you have some answers. And he is not going to grade me. I mean,
Right.
and thankfully, we were able to have, create this relationship. And so, and it was via Zoom, which was so funny because then it kind of developed. So that, I hope I answered your question. I think
No, absolutely.
there's many reasons, but if you want to keep moving forward, and depending what it is that you are wanting in your life. If your life, for me, my career, my mom was, she had my dad, but it was her. She was the main breadwinner. She was the one that, for me, like, I feel like she was this career-driven woman. And so my career has always been really important to me, and trying to figure out where I'm going, my future, even though I can't control it, trying to start panning out things. And especially after you go through different leadership programs, they, journal, do all of these things, because these are the things that really make you understand what you want and help you towards that vision.
And accountability and like, those are my favorite words. And just like to your point, like, yes, when you have somebody that's holding you accountable, like, you don't want to let them down, not because like you're going to disappoint them, but it's like, if this person carved out time in their life, you don't want to waste their time by not showing up, by not doing the work. And obviously, if you have a rough week and something happens, and that's fine, but like, you don't want to just keep showing, because then they're going to be like, forget it, right? And they're holding such knowledge and golden nuggets to help you get to your next step. So let's talk about the next step. So you are now VP of Development. Exciting. Tell me about that process, right? Because a lot of people who lead, manage, guide volunteers like us, the higher up we go, the harder it is to find positions, right? Because there's no such thing. And if there is, I have not found it. Please let me know, because I have been wrong many times before. But there's no such thing as like the VP of volunteer services at an organization. Like, that's just not a thing. You can get to maybe the manager, lucky if you're at a director level, but then it's like, what happens? So a lot of people end up transitioning out of the profession, which is such a shame, or into different roles, into different, just into different, like roles, profession. And so with the position that you have, do you still have the opportunity to work with volunteers, or are you strictly on the development side, which a lot of development departments, the volunteer program falls underneath, because it's people giving money and people giving time, right? So, but talk to me about that transition, because you went from directing and leading like staff and volunteers into a different type of role, but I'm sure it's similar, because you still have to, like you said, network with people and all that kind of stuff. So how did that transition go?
It's interesting, because I honestly had thought about it before, but I never, my idea was that I wanted a different road ahead. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in nonprofit. I wasn't sure what exactly I've been a nonprofit for probably 15 years now. And so I really wasn't sure what I wanted. What had happened is towards the end of my position, I got an amazing promotion, and I was overseeing volunteers and was also overseeing the operations of how everything functioned. And so that's when I realized what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. And so I realized that by sometimes the higher up you go, the less people you see, or sometimes you're dealing with a lot of the operational aspect of it. And so I was missing that one-on-one, that I honestly didn't have any time to do it, couldn't even carve that extreme. Had a team that was working and doing an amazing job. But I realized that there was still an opportunity. And so when this happened, I just kind of said, okay, first of all, I have a young son, I decided I needed to take a little bit of a break. It had been many, many years since I had been doing what I was doing. I had tried something a little bit different, something in addition to, which helped me know what I wanted and what I didn't want. And so I actually took a break. I was very fortunate that I was able to do it. I took November and December off, which I don't think I can even remember the last time that I really, maternity leave doesn't count.
Yeah. No, because that is absolute work. Yes.
And it comes to the point that I don't remember a time that I really wasn't working. And so this is when I realized how important relationships are. Even though my mind and my heart and my soul told me, you need to really take advantage. You're so lucky you have this time. Obviously, we hear about so many people that are doing this more and more, with, I guess you hear about the Great Resignation and all of this that's happening.
Right.
For me, it was, let me try to get some time to spend, as much as I can with my son who's little. He had just started school. He needed me more than I even realized, because I had no idea what it was like to become a mother until I became one. I had never kids around me when I was like little kids, and so it really is a first time experience for me. And so, and I know for many others it is too, but I honestly didn't know how people can be moms and also work. For me, that was like, wow, this is insane. And so